Hello. How are you, Mark?
Hi, Kat. Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Really excited for
Good.
tonight. I feel
Yeah,
like
me too.
I should be doing that Kermit gif that I was sharing around earlier. How excited
Oh,
I
you
am
getting
about
ready?
being. That was it. Yeah,
Something like
it
that.
was that one running around at like 4 times
Yeah,
speed. I like to not attend
definitely.
like Teams meetings if I can, so I can watch them back later. And it's really funny because
Mm,
everything's done at 4 times. You can play it back super quick, then, can't you?
yeah.
And it was a bit like that when I was getting changed earlier. Anyway, I digress. So we're here tonight, Kat. What are we doing here tonight?
Yeah, so tonight we are going to be having a bit of a dive into Rise issue 5, which is coming out next week. So that's very exciting. So we're talking to some of our contributors about their articles, kind of getting to know that and doing a preview of the front cover and talking about some of the things that we're excited to share when it comes out. So should be a good
Yeah,
show.
I am absolutely buzzing. As, you've had access to the articles longer than I have, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's just been great diving into them. I know we've got our guests this evening. Let's just run through our guests this evening. A few people
Yeah.
can't make it, unfortunately. It is that time of year where a few bugs
Mm.
are floating around, but really excited to be having Andrew Jennings, vocabulary ninja, joining us this evening. We've got Sarah Tilley, Curious Maths, talking about her article. I found that such a useful article.
Mm.
I won't steal her thunder, but we'll hear from her
Me
later.
too.
We've got Halil joining us, talking about things in his school. We've got Oliver Wright, Oliver SLT, joining us, talking on a topic that I'm really passionate about. And I'll dive into why I found his article particularly useful when he comes on shortly.
Mhm.
We've got Harry coming on talking about chess. Unfortunately, I haven't got my chess cufflinks on this evening. Should have
Oh,
got it.
slacking.
But I was outside chopping wood earlier. That's why I'm in my lumberjack outfit. See, so doing that. And then we've got Maggie Layfield joining us. She's
Yay,
talking about
Maggie.
yay for Maggie. We went best friends on Pokemon yesterday, you know. But anyway, as a
Nice.
side, we have got Maggie on talking about flexible learning spaces, and it's
Mhm.
such an important topic. Actually, thinking about learning design and how the space that children are in can have a big impact on their
Mm.
learning. So, really excited to have these guests on. But I'd say the magazine itself, though, Kat, is absolutely jam full, again, of really useful
Oh, yeah,
resources,
absolutely.
ideas, things to take away from the classroom. Can you give us a feel, perhaps, for some of the other articles that are in the magazine that's coming out next week?
Yeah, so I wanted to spotlight a few of the ones that we're not going to be kind of diving into with our guests later. So one of the key ones I've really enjoyed reading was Top Tips for Inclusion of Pupils with Physical Impairments by Elise Hayward. So it's so
Hmm.
interesting reading all about her experiences in mainstream education while having cerebral palsy. And then she's used all of that to come up with really good practice and top tips to support other pupils. So it's really powerful. And she wrote the whole article using her iGo software, which I think is brilliant and was just showcases like all the things she's been able to do with the right support. So it kind of really shows why the things she's talking about in the article are really important and have that really good impact. So yeah, that was a really key one for me. I loved Vicky Taylor's article about why change is so hard. I think it's something that we all struggle with, and it was interesting reading why change is difficult, but also why it's especially hard for children with that kind of lack of control or say over the change that happens in their lives and how we can support them with that. I mean, so many transitions for kids, so that's always really useful. We've got Toxic School Cultures, The Darkness in Teaching Profession with Sheetal Smith, another really important one.
Mm.
Again, it helps us really understand what a toxic school culture looks like. And because she talked about her own experiences, it was quite a powerful look at the detriment it can cause for staff if they're in that environment. And then one other one I'm excited to highlight is we've got coming out following the magazine for all of our R.I.S.E readers, we're going to have a research report all about the impact of teaching on relationships. So all our
Mm.
subscribers will get a copy of it, and there's a little bit of an overview of it in the magazine talking about what it covers and why we decided to write it. So that was really exciting to work on too.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to see the full thing. I mean, it started off as quite a small thing, that didn't it, about the
Mm.
impact of school life on your personal life, and it's grown into something quite
Mm.
massive now, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, lots of respondents, amazing amount of respondents to the initial survey that we put out, which kind of sparked it all, and then research and lots and lots of support from experts in psychology and psychotherapy and all those kind of areas. So it kind of merited its own big report. So yeah.
Oh well, hat doffed and hat tip to you for starting
Yeah, thank you.
that ball rolling, Kat. It's sort of taken a life on of its own, but it is
It
such a
helped.
big deal, isn't it? And I think actually, truth be told, you know, teaching it is a vocation and it is a way of life, but the impact it does have on everybody. I often share, as you know, I don't teach anymore, but I always used to talk about sort of work balance rather than work life balance. Even
Yeah.
it's really hard to keep on top of all of it, isn't it? So
especially when you're
really,
emotionally invested as well, like so many teachers are, because you're passionate about your job. So that does make it harder.
yeah, that's it. And you have that. And relationships are absolutely key. They're the cornerstone of your classroom, aren't they?
Yeah.
And so when you are so emotionally invested, and you want to see the best for all the children that you teach, whether it's primary, secondary, early years, FE, wherever you are, it's a big deal. You got me excited, Kat, earlier because so I've done a bit of work on the magazine, as you know, but I didn't get involved in the front cover. But I've seen the front cover now. Should we share
Yes.
the front cover
Yes.
so we can let people know what it's going to look like and all those sort of things? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Let me
definitely.
just stop that a second. Okay. Should we do the little virtual drum roll again?
Sure.
There we go.
Yeah, so we've got our front cover, nice autumnal theme, and on there it's highlighting some of the articles that we talked about, also some of the free resources that are in there. So we've got some spelling strategies that work. We've got the Get Your Chest On, which we'll find out a bit more with Harry when she comes on later. And we've also got a really useful online safety survey from Tracy Good, actually talking about kind of the difference in what parents think their children are doing online and what the children are actually doing online, and that was quite fascinating to see the difference.
I can testify to that with first-hand experience with my children. Oh, crikey. TikTok has got a lot to answer for, but that's for another show. Confessions with Mark and his family. That's available on live on iPlayer next Thursday. No.
So one other thing that I'm really excited about with the show, before we kind of welcome on any of our other guests, is that we have got a returning amazing assistant, because we've got Rachel Holt coming back on the show to do her signing for us in Makaton, which will be brilliant, as we loved having her on last time.
No, absolutely. And so with that in mind, should we bring Rachel on and say hello?
Definitely.
Okay, here we go. Hi there, Rachel. How are you?
Rachel.
Hello. Hi again. Hi, Mark. Hi, Kat. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. Little bit of a sniffle, but I'm fine. Good to go.
You're doing well. Can't tell yet. If you start muting yourself, we'll know that you're probably sneezing.
Great stuff. Thank you so much again.
No, thank you for having me on. It's been amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Your contribution last time was so helpful and so fantastic, Rachel. We just couldn't help but not have you come join us again. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. How is life with you? What have you been up to since we last met, since last R.I.S.E magazine, Rachel?
So busy, so excited because Christmas is nearly here. So I wrote the Christmas production in September. And at Pennyfield School in Leeds in Meadwood, big shout out to Pennyfield School in Meadwood, we are ready to have our first Christmas production in 3 years. Because of COVID, we couldn't obviously have one. So we're actually inviting parents in. So I did it in September and we've started practicing. And also I spoke to R.I.S.E Hayward over the weekend. We had a bit of a giggle because I was asked to set up a new AAC group within our school.
Oh, brilliant.
And I've been loving it's brand new to me, never done it before in my life. So I'm learning a new skill myself. So it's really, really exciting for me as well.
Oh, that's
and we're
brilliant.
learning a lot, and the pupils have to ask for things that come out of my magic bag. And most of the time, they mostly just want me to dance and laugh at me dancing at the moment. But it's working well. So we had a little giggle, did R.I.S.E and I, over the weekend over that. But it was so brilliant because she's offered to help me, within my role as well. So again, having these contacts through Twitter, it's wonderful to have all these connections. So
Definitely.
Brilliant stuff. I'm just so busy.
That's great to hear.
Fantastic, Rachel. Can I ask you, with my sort of interviewer hat on for a second, two questions, but both linked. For viewers who haven't come across you or heard about Makaton, could you share a little bit about what Makaton is? And then education is one of those places where there are more acronyms than there are real world words, it seems, sometimes. So for those who don't know, what is AAC?
So that's alternative augmentative communication. So that means we might use lots of different ways to communicate other than just speech, what we have. So we might use signs along with speech and symbols, but some children need communication aids and devices.
Yeah.
So a lot of the children that I work with, they do need communication aids, whether they can touch them themselves or through eye gaze like Elise uses. We have a lot of children like that, and they are absolutely amazing. So I'm really looking forward myself to learning, because I've never done this before in my life.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
If anybody out there who's got any advice, just direct message me. I'm looking for lots of really, really brilliant activities for them, because we're working on really, really great activities. Just even cause and effect things, just that like pop-up pirate things that they're going to really, really engage them, so that they actually work on want. Because the core vocabulary, of course, is so important in everyday functional communication. So even if it's yes, no, stop, go, and want is all we are doing at the moment, that's really, really key. Do you want a yogurt? Yes. Do you want this? No. I want, and they might be able to point to music or something, or outside on their talker. So it's, it's wants and needs, really, really important stuff that we need in everyday communication. And from that, we build upon it, obviously, over time.
Great stuff. Thank you, Rachel, for explaining that.
Yeah, thank you.
It's every day's a learning day, I say. And we always have a different audience and wide and varied audience.
I love learning. Yeah, it's the best thing.
So
this is how we grow, isn't it?
And speaking of our audience, I'm really pleased to see that not only is she joining us later on the show, but Maggie Layfield is actually watching us live from the States as well. So thank you for joining us,
Hi, Maggie.
Thank you very much for that.
Fantastic. So do we think we're ready to welcome our first guest?
I think we probably are, Kat. So here we go. Do you want to introduce our next guest?
Yeah, of course. So I want to welcome on Oliver Wright onto the show, and he's going to be talking about his article, Small Changes for Big Impact. Welcome, Oliver.
Hi. Hello. It's really good to be here. I'm okay, thanks.
It's lovely to have you.
Lovely to see you, Kat and Mark and Rachel. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us. How are you? How's your week been?
All right. Yeah. It's well, I say it's all right. It's been one of those weeks where we've had sort of minor disasters. We've had the washing machine break down and it's cold and all the rest of it. But other than that, no, it's been a really good start to the week. So yeah, it's all right.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Busy but good. Getting ready for this for one.
It's quite a lot of organising, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously they release a magazine next week. So yeah. So obviously we know you really well, but for those who don't, could you give us a little bit of an intro about who you are and what you do?
I can try, yeah. This is the question I used to hate to interview when you turn up for interview and you say, can you just tell us a bit about yourself? And you go, yeah, I'm Oliver. And that would be about it.
Yeah.
But I work for Twinkle and I'm the head of senior leadership there. So I work developing pretty much anything that leaders are going to need, whether it's resources or blog content or audio content, whatever. That's my role there. So it's a very free role as well. It's one of those where I can just sort of spot opportunities and go into those little rabbit holes that people need help with. And I also present for Teacher Hub Radio as well. I've got a show on there that's on. It's an hour on a Saturday and an hour on a Sunday, just talking to a head teacher about their journey and what we can learn from that and what other people can get from that. So yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I like that you've got that autonomy in your work as well. I'm sure that's really helpful because you can respond to what you're being asked for from educators, obviously, in that way.
Yeah, it's good to be able to do that and to just spot opportunities of where people need help and to be able to dive into that and do things and to have that freedom to do things like writing for the R.I.S.E magazine, where it's just a little bit of an extra way of getting the word out and helping people. So it's good.
Yeah, exactly. Engaging with different communities and things. So could you tell us a bit more about your article and why you decided to write it?
Right. Yeah, my article was, the title of it, let me find it. It was Small Changes for Big Impact. And it was talking about how leadership is very often sometimes sort of small things that we do on a regular basis that add up to having a big impact, rather than those sort of massive grand gestures that some people seem to sort of think of as leadership. Because I'd come across quite a few people over the summer who were almost put off leadership because they thought it was like the massive stuff that people did, and they weren't able to do that because they were just ordinary, I'm just a teacher, or I'm just a teaching assistant, or I'm just a subject leader, or whatever. And they didn't see what they were doing as leadership. Whereas sometimes it's those little things that we do on a daily basis that make that difference for people, and they add up over time to sometimes bigger impact than if it was a massive grand gesture that somebody would go, oh, that's amazing, that's fantastic. So it was just to encourage people to recognize that what they were doing was important and was leadership, and to encourage them to think about leadership as well, rather than sort of dismissing it and saying, well, that's what other people do, and I'm not worthy of doing that because I'm only an ordinary person.
So it really resonated with me, Oliver. One of the things I'm really passionate about is and I call it something slightly different. I call it marginal gains. It's that David Brailsford sort of thing, whereby, like you say, you add those sort of small wins together, and that aggregated effect actually ends up having a bigger impact. As we know, there are no sort of real sort of silver bullets in education as well. What I really liked about your article was that it wasn't just sort of highlighting that as an approach, but and you didn't give a list of things to do as well. And you were really quite
I was
clear.
going to mention that as well. Yeah,
very keen to not do the top tips or not do the sort of do these things, because it's almost, it needs to be whatever's suitable for your context, or whatever matches your personality and your approach to things, rather than being a sort of do this and you'll succeed.
Yeah, no, it was the way in which you clearly kind of explain approaches that enable you to then unpick what some of those small wins might be, about slowing down, taking the time to look and to listen and pay notice and what have you to your community and your context and your various stakeholders and things. I found it really, really useful, and I think it will give our readers lots and lots of takeaways as well. So
definitely.
I don't want to steal your thunder and stop people from reading the article. Would you mind sharing, though, Oliver? What's your experience of writing been like for R.I.S.E. and working with Kat? And
I've really enjoyed it, actually, partly because there's that freedom to, Kat's not sort of come and said, I need this many words and I need this particular topic. She's been really good at just giving that little bit of space to develop into. So this was something that it came from some of the conversations I had with people. I thought, I think there's an article here. I think there's something people are going to get value from, rather than Kat coming and saying, here's your title, here's your word count, get on with it. So it's been really good. And I think, she's fed back about the articles and, seems to be happy with what's been written. So it's been a really positive process. And it's a really nice community to be part of as well. There are a number of the contributors that I know personally, or have been in touch with either through online or in person. And it's just a lovely group to work with.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you, Oliver. I agree. It's a really great community that keeps growing. So everyone's very supportive of each other, for sure.
That's great.
Rachel, did you want to ask Oliver the last question?
Yes.
Sorry, I realised you haven't had a chance to sign because I probably said them too quickly for you to.
No, it's fine. So what do you think about R.I.S.E. magazine, though? Having written for it now, what do you feel about it? What's your thoughts on R.I.S.E. magazine?
I really like it, and I really like it because of the variety that there is in there. And it's not all about school improvement. It's not all about your sort of classic curriculum subjects. There's such a range in there, and there's things that, some people will read the whole thing cover to cover and sort of hang on every word, and others will sort of pick and choose the articles they want to dip into first. But I think there's something for all of us to learn from it. So just that range, I think, is brilliant.
Yeah,
that's what I thought about it. You're inviting everybody in, aren't you? So it's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely, the more the merrier.
No. Can I be cheeky and ask a bonus question, Oliver?
Yes.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Myself and Kat and clearly yourself as well. I mean, it was interesting hearing about your experience and your subject area and how you've got. But how did you end up as a school leader? How did you end up transitioning? This is a subject I'm quite interested in, and it's proven quite a hot topic for teachers thinking of leaving the classroom as well.
Yeah.
What sort of if it's okay to talk about it, sort of fueled that idea of leaving the classroom, and how have you found that transition? Because I say it's a really interesting thing, because sometimes there's imposter syndrome, sometimes there's the even now I miss I talked about relationships just a few minutes before with we went live with Kat, and the relationships you have with children in your classroom. And when you're a head teacher, it's the relationship with all the children in the school, the parent body, all your colleagues, all the rest of it. How have you found that transition?
For me, it was quite a dramatic transition almost, because I'd come out of headship and I was doing some supply teaching. And then I had quite a big bike accident, and I ended up in hospital for a number of months. And literally was sort of sat there thinking, well, there's not a lot of security in doing supply, and I can't picture myself doing the next 20 years as a supply teacher and going, flitting from sort of a short-term contract here and there to day-to-day supply and then back into a short-term. And I was just looking around for what else I could do, and stumbled upon the Twinkl job. And that initially went into the business as an editor, which sort of used my skills as a teacher and as a leader to sort of almost take what somebody else had written and polish it up ready for the classroom and make sure it was absolutely spot on to go out there. I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed almost the lack of responsibility for it, because although it was a responsible job, you didn't have that sort of 24-hour access to you. At the end of the day, you shut the computer down at 4 o'clock or whatever, and that was it. And you didn't have access to your email at home, and you weren't getting text messages and stuff like that. So it was just really nice to have that freedom. And then it sort of developed from there, and I got the shoulder tap from HR that was, we'd like you to take on this extra bit of the business we're looking to develop into. And initially my thought was like, no, I'm not particularly interested. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. But then I could see the possibility there, and it was just good to sort of gradually grow into that. So I think somehow I've missed out on that imposter syndrome, because if I'd parachuted from what I was doing straight into what I'm doing now, a huge change, whereas doing it gradually and doing that sort of number of months just as an editor, just plugging away and going, I really enjoy this, and I can see the value for it in people.
Time to build your confidence,
and that built the confidence to sort of then take the next steps and sort of gradually develop that role. And then I've developed that role over the last couple of years to make it my own, and I've taken it in the direction that I wanted to. So I still miss it though, like you. I miss that relationship with the rest of the staff and the parents and the children, and that day-to-day contact. But it's very different, and I love what I'm doing. So it's worked out all right in the end.
It is unlike
yeah. So you still get the opportunity, don't you, to still have an impact and do all those things, of things. And it seems to me like Twinkl's a really innovative kind of company to work in, and quite a supportive company. Not a lot of people. I can sound like a comedian here, but not a lot of people know this. But Twinkl, not only are they one of the most successful edtech companies in the country, one of our biggest exporters, and so forth and so on. But you also, Twinkl as a business also support an awful lot of startups, don't they?
Yes.
Did you get involved with any of that sort of work, Oliver?
Yes, there's a part of the business called the Hive that looks after the startups, and we engage with them quite a lot. And because I run the leadership side of things, they come to us and say, how can we engage with school leaders? Can we have a spot in your newsletter? Can we have a space on your podcast? Could we do some blog content and link up? And we also do a little bit of trialing for them of some of the materials they're producing, if it's a resource sort of angle to it. So we get involved quite a lot, and it's just nice getting that. It's a different sort of vibe to working with the core Twinkl business. And there's a lot of energy there and a lot of enthusiasm, and some of them are fantastic companies. So it's really good.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Now, one of the companies I do know is NataHub. They're a Twinkle Hive business, and
Yes.
the work that Manjit and Caroline are doing is absolutely fantastic. I mean, they
Oh
won
yeah,
an
we work with
award.
them a lot.
Mhm.
They won an award just last week at the Guest Awards, I believe. And it wasn't the Guest Awards.
Yes.
They did win an award for their app, and
Yeah.
it's lovely to see that Twinkle are not only doing really well themselves, massively well,
Yes.
but they're actually reinvesting and supporting education in lots of other ways as well.
Yeah, it's been really good to see NataHub do that, because I was involved right at the beginning of my time at Twinkle as an editor, where we trialed some of their sort of very beginning materials. So, you know, that was when we were in the office all together. So, yeah, it was lovely to get to know them a little bit and to do that trialing of that sort of initial material, and then to see them take it out. So, yeah, there are times when you're asked to do things for Hive companies and you get involved and you quite enjoy it. Whereas when it's NataHub, it's very much a, yes, I desperately want to, because it's such a good product and it's such a good company. So,
definitely.
They are brilliant.
Yeah, Caroline Allams has actually written an article for this upcoming R.I.S.E issue, so I'm sure you'll enjoy that.
That'll be a really good one to read. What's she written about?
So kind of like a shared approach to online strategies, so kind of that with parents and with teachers, so make sure everyone's on board, which is really good.
She's got such a clear understanding, though, of that relationship with parents.
Yes, being a parent herself as well.
Yes, and also that importance of using play as a way to sort of explore online things in a safe way.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
She's brilliant. She's really good.
Sounds brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oliver.
That's all right. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Oliver, it's been wonderful to meet you finally.
I've
been waiting a long time.
It's been a long time, hasn't it? I remember messaging you when you were in the floods. Was it last October? And
we love our Lake District, but we didn't that October, did we?
No.
Oh no.
I think we were the last car out of the valley, and you were in the caravan at the time, and it just looked horrendous.
We were stuck in the Borrowdale Valley. Couldn't get home.
No. Really? Oh.
Yeah. No, it's been really good to meet you, Rachel.
No, great to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Good to see you, guys.
Oliver. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Right then, Kat. So, so much going on, and we mentioned previous articles then for a second, actually. Before we bring in our next guest, perhaps we could take a moment to just highlight the fact that you can not only obviously access, and I'll put a little link at the bottom here if you want to get a copy of the next edition of R.I.S.E once it goes live. Please do go to the address you can see going across the bottom there, netsportsoftware.com/rise-magazine. But if you do go to that address, you can obviously go back and see and read previous editions, and we're very fortunate this evening to have somebody, as you mentioned a few moments ago, Kat, somebody who has written for us before. Now, I'm not going to drop her back into the green room and bring her straight back in again, but Rachel, would you mind just sort of sharing a little bit about your previous article and sort of some of the things that you actually covered in that as well, please? Say you've been very lovely about coming on again this evening and signing with us and all the rest of it as well. But you're very popular on social media as well around your sharing around Makaton. You were very kind to explain for viewers who might not have heard of that and about AAC earlier. But what is Makaton? And maybe don't go for the full explanation again, but what was your article about? And have you got any sort of highlights from what you shared in that article that might be useful for our viewers this evening?
I just want people to know that it's not just for children with special educational needs. You know, we need it. You know, 1 in 10 children, even in a primary school, they may need this, and you might not realise they need it, but they might need some extra support. And also, it's for children with English as an additional language. You know, we need to support our pupils to learn how to read and write. It helps literacy skills. It also supports children or adults with dementia. But if you were to have a serious car accident and you lost your powers of speech, more and more hospitals, nurses, they're all learning how to use Makaton, because it's another way to learn how to communicate if you lose your powers of speech. So with Makaton, we use signs along with speech, and we also use symbols. And there's 3 different ways you can use it. You can use it for functional. We use body language, facial expressions, for it to make meaning to our pupils or our adults who we're learning with learning disabilities or dementia. So, for instance, you can use it as a functional level just by using facial expressions. So, for instance, toilet. But you could say, "Do you want the toilet?" But it still means the same thing. But you're using your facial expressions for it to make meaning. Or biscuit. Do you want a biscuit? Do you want a biscuit? If I was to say, "I'm going to work," you could just say, "I'm going to work now." You could say, "I am going to work," if it was the key words of a sentence. So, "I am going to work." Or if it was at full grammatical level, so children that work beyond just the keyword levels, they're learning it for language and literacy skills. If we're not going to stop them, we want them to progress, don't we? So we might say, "I am going," and you'd sign the ing, to work. So we might not say it, like we teach it when we do our different levels of Makaton. We teach it as in the keyword levels, because that's the best way to learn it, because it's sort of middle ground. But we teach about all these different levels of learning Makaton throughout the stages, and you can go on to progress. So, like I say, you can progress from this. But I want to see it everywhere. The whole point of me putting it in the magazine was we need to be more inclusive. More people should learn to sign. I really believe it should be in primary schools and learn at a young age, because they're all little sponges at this age, aren't they? They take it all in. Once you've learnt it, I don't think they'll ever forget it. And through music, sing and sign, it's well known now that because it's got a beat and a rhythm, it's easy to learn words through to music. And it all kind of links together as well. It's great for our children with our multisensory needs as well. So it's bringing vocabulary in all the time. So all our functional everyday language, we learn the core vocabulary first, but then there's a huge, massive bank. So there's a national curriculum book. So this would add to the core vocabulary, whatever you're doing. So I've started putting on YouTube and Twitter the things that you can add. So, for instance, we're doing a topic on shapes and colour at the moment. So I'm putting shapes and colour and how we would sign that in Makaton. That's all on there now. Things that you're doing in school, but to be more inclusive, why don't you try and do it in Makaton? Because there will be somebody in your class that needs it, and you might not realise it. We all use gestures, don't we? We all use gestures. I use my hands all the time, even when I'm not signing. But more people out there should be signing. And what I want people to think about is, if you are signing in school, like we do as much as what we do, if those pupils leave school in the outside world and nobody else is signing them back, think how they would feel. They've lost their powers of speech, and for somebody to understand how they communicate. So how lonely and how frustrating and scary would that be? So for mental health and well-being, more people in the community need to learn how to sign, just for inclusion in the whole world, really. Basically, we need to, if we can't read that, we need to learn these signs so that we can read their signs back and understand them. Otherwise, what's the point? So I'm going to try and get the local Sainsbury's trained up now, because everybody needs to go shopping. Do you know what I mean? We need it everywhere. This is where I'm at the moment.
No, that's great, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Rachel. Thank you very much indeed. I'm mindful of time. I keep taking us off on a bit of a tangent, Kat, but I'm mindful that we've got our next guest waiting in the virtual green room. I'm not going to do a Graham Norton and boot her straight out as soon as she comes in. But shall I introduce our next guest?
Yes.
So I'm very pleased to welcome, but disappointed to have to tell her I'm not wearing my chess cufflinks this evening. But I'm really, really pleased to welcome Harry Neocleus to the show. Welcome, Harry. I missed you at Bet when you came and joined us back in March.
You were busy filming.
Yeah,
I was running around like a busy person, but lovely to meet you finally. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very well, thank you. Nice to be back with you both.
yeah, it's lovely to see you, Harry, and it was so nice to meet you at Bet. I luckily did get to see you, so
Good fun.
yeah, it was absolutely. How's your week been?
It's been good. Some working, studying, different things every day. That's how my week goes. So yeah, it's been a good week.
Brilliant. Keeping it varied, keeping it fun.
So you keep yourself very busy. You're involved in lots of things. Not only you studying, but you're sort of working with another of our guests this evening as well. Someone who inspires you. You've been sharing recently on Twitter with Sarah and your love of maths. But something that you and I both have in common is a love of chess, and that's what your article in the next edition of R.I.S.E magazine is about. You've been really helpful. I mentioned the cufflinks. My own children are into chess as well, and so I've got these chess cufflinks. I've got a pawn on one and I think it's a knight on the other, and it's something that they really enjoy as well. But it was lovely to read your article with lots of different sort of strategies and ways to sort of get your chess on, as your article is called. But before I sort of dive into that, could you rather than me sort of witter on about a few things you do here and there, could you explain that sort of who you are and what it is you actually do, Harry, please?
Yeah, so my name is Harry Neocleus. I'm a primary maths and chess teacher. During the week, you'll find me in a school in North London doing interventions for children who struggle with maths. You'll find me doing chess clubs. On a Friday, I teach in a wonderful school in Tottenham with Christala Jamil. I'm a chess teacher in the day. And I'm studying as well. I'm studying dyscalculia at uni as well. So yeah, my week is primary maths and chess, and I'm also a curious maths teacher with Sarah, like you said. So I work for her and with her. So this year we get to teach year 6 together, which is always lovely to work alongside Sarah. And also, yeah, it's good fun with Sarah. And also I'm a Cherubs magazine writer. So it's a family magazine, and I get 2 pages to talk about maths or chess or board games and just inspire a love of maths for parents, because it's not always been the case for many parents. They haven't had great maths experiences, so it's really lovely to write for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing. And how lovely! I didn't realise you worked with Christala as well. She's someone I've known and worked with as well myself a few times over the years. So how lovely that you get to do that as well. Thanks for sharing that, Harry. I wanted to ask you then about your article. Clearly, a big fan of chess and maths as well, obviously. But could you tell us about your article and why you chose to write about chess in that particular way?
Yeah, so I'll mention briefly, like the first piece I wrote for R.I.S.E was about the gift of chess and the magic that it brings to children. And whether you do it lunch or after school or have tutors come in, it will benefit children in different ways. And then the second piece I wrote about how you can have chess-themed maths, and I spoke about early algebraic skills through the theme of chess. So this time I thought, what can I do for my third one if it's the last piece I write for R.I.S.E? So I thought, I'd love people to see chess in action. So I've gone for a lesson plan. And I know it might sound really boring, but I promise you it's not. I wanted people to see the depth of a lesson. So you can do it across the board with all pieces at lunch, but if you're going to do chess lessons, I wanted a snapshot for people to see what it looks like in a real classroom. I chose to write about the knight. So it's a knight lesson because that's one of the trickiest pieces to learn. And it starts off with a history hook. Children love to know about this ancient game and look at old chess pieces. And then we talk about how it moves, how it captures, and then we learn through mini games. And with my year 4s now in Tottenham, we are spending like the whole term learning slowly. So when we teach chess, we don't just dive into a whole game with all the pieces. You learn gradually. So I've spent a whole term with my New Year fours doing mini games, and there are so many wonderful mini games. So in the piece that I've written this time for R.I.S.E, I'm showcasing the knight and lots of fun mini games. The questioning, the depth, the reasoning skills, the little debates children can have. And I'm also showcasing 2 main platforms, actually. One of them is Acorn Chess, which is something that you will download onto your computer, and it's got mini games, it's got openings, end games, those openings with famous names, and it's a really great application to teach with. And I'm also showcasing the Logic Board, which is an interactive site, free, and that has chess mini games, it has logic puzzles, it has all sorts of mini games as well. So not just chess, other strategic games. And there's other things I mention, and there's resources. So if you wanted to bring it in, I'll tell you about a Chess in Schools curriculum that's out there that you could use as teachers. So it's a lesson, but with loads of extras thrown in for primary and secondary.
I thought it was a perfect follow-up for your other articles, to be fair, because obviously you had the benefits, then you went into the how we use it in investigations, and then obviously into a lesson plan. So it kind of has that nice build-up for readers, and then it means that because of the way you've written it with all the resources and links and things like that as well, a teacher could pick it up and just use it straight away, which I think is really useful. And don't say you only get to write for R.I.S.E 3 times. You can write as many times as you want. So I'm always happy to have your things in there. But no, I think it was really great and definitely not boring. Really, really useful and interesting, especially as you focused on the knight.
Yeah, well, I thought it is a tricky piece for children to master, so I thought that would be a good one. And actually there's lots of wonderful maths problem solving activities as well, so if you were interested in the Knights tour and other things, it's a really nice one to grab secondary teachers' interests as well. So I chose that one on purpose because there's a lot you can kind of go further with the Knight.
Brilliant.
Did you want to ask the next question, Rachel?
Yeah, so hi Harry, it's great to meet you today.
Good to meet you too.
So how did it feel writing for R.I.S.E magazine then? How did you feel about it?
Kat is amazing. She's encouraging, positive, just welcoming, and I think with the first piece maybe she kind of knew I needed a little extension, and she just understands who she's working with, and she gives you feedback. She's so meticulous, her attention to detail is amazing, and she'll, like, if you're thinking of writing for R.I.S.E, Kat will support you. She'll, like, I did the podcast with Kat, she sent me all the questions in advance, all the techno things that I need to read about 5 times. Like, the journey, the support that you get with Kat is amazing. And I know Mark and Kat both, they've created this like R.I.S.E network on Twitter, and as well as writing and sharing good practice, it's a platform, and lots of good things have come out of R.I.S.E for me. Lots of meeting great people. I know that Christala noticed the buzz about chess through R.I.S.E, a piece I'd written, the first piece I'd written, and from a Chess Plus course I did, and now I'm working in just the most amazing school. Cherubs wouldn't have noticed me if it wasn't for Kat allowing me to write for R.I.S.E, and like lots of other great projects have come up. So I'm forever grateful, and yeah. The whole journey is lovely. And actually she doesn't change your words. You know, what you write from the heart stays, and it's not the case for all platforms. So supportive, encouraging, and she creates a network. It's a platform. It's not just writing for this magazine. There's more happening.
Oh, thank you, Harry. I just caught the tail end of all the nice things. But it's very much you creating those opportunities as well. And yeah, I don't always think that's what makes it most interesting. It's just that, you know, making it fit in with the magazine and correcting the odd little things, or, you know, cutting it down when we have to. But I don't want to take away any of the heart that you put into it, obviously, because it's great. That's the good stuff.
Brilliant. You are brilliant, Kat.
Don't sell yourself short,
Yeah.
Harry. So when you put yourself
exactly.
out there and put yourself forward, great things happen. And so
They
thank
do.
you for the lovely kind words you've shared about Kat. Unfortunately, you didn't get to hear them all, Kat. Although to be fair, if you'd heard all of them, we probably didn't. We would have seen more the blushing and the glow that would be coming
Probably.
from you, Kat.
But no, yeah, exactly. It's all down to your own merits, Harry. So.
But no, I, on a personal level, I found what you've been sharing to be really interesting. I've shared some of the things with my own children. Even out on social media as well. You mentioned that's another benefit, as you mentioned. There's a fantastic sort of mini community that we share on Twitter, and we get together and connect in there. There's a Facebook group now as well. So if you are keen to join and become an author on R.I.S.E magazine, about to slide off the side there, but if you're interested, netsupportsoftware.com/rise-magazine. That's where you can sign up to sort of get the various magazines and read previous editions and all that as well. But you can, of course, sign up to become an author there as well, should you want to as well. And get in touch with that form, and then we'll be in touch and start that conversation about how you can get involved with R.I.S.E magazine. But thank you so much for your articles, Harry, and thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Harry.
Bye,
Bye for now.
Harry.
Brilliant stuff. So who do we have up next then, Kat?
So next up, we are going to be welcoming on Andrew Jennings. Sorry, Andrew, I know we're running a little bit behind, but we are very excited to welcome you on now, especially now I'm back on the internet. Yay!
I feel like with Andrew, welcome Andrew, I feel like I should be sort of getting my shurikens out ready or something, or like some sort of crouching tiger, hidden dragon kind of thing going on. What do you think, Andrew? Is that right?
It's generally a comment that I get, yeah.
Is it?
To be fair,
I can see you've got a little ninja on your shelf actually in the background. It looks like it's sneaking up on you.
Yeah, it's growing, but it's often like one of the first things that teachers, when I have the opportunity to go into schools, it always tends to be the first thing. Oh, you're not wearing your ninja costume. I'm like, no, I'm shirt and tie today. yeah. So no, but it's all good, isn't it? It's always an easy thing to start talking about. So yeah, good to see you all.
Yeah, lovely to see you as well.
Hi there.
Hello, nice to meet you.
That's a great catchy hook, isn't it, Andrew? Thank you so much for joining us, and
thank you.
not only for writing for R.I.S.E magazine and all the things we see you sharing on social as well. You know, education is definitely a force for good, and it's lovely when we see practitioners like yourself, sharing and helping others, because, like I say, it's a morally sort of driven profession, isn't it? And we want to help others, and it's lovely that you've been able to turn something that you're really passionate in something that's really working for you beyond the classroom as well. So
I think you're right. Thanks, Matt. I think you're right though. Having the opportunity to collaborate, I think, like along the lines of doing things like this, but all the events that I know you organise, Mark, and that I've been to over the years, and the people that you meet and having the opportunity to collaborate are the best thing about it, really. I know. Was it yesterday? I did an online writing lesson with Simon from Pobble. We had like 450 classes on from around the over 10,000 pupils. So like just having the opportunity to do something like that, grab the World Cup and do some writing with pupils. But it just comes from that collaboration, doesn't it? Of wanting to share and help other teachers. So yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Rachel, did you want to do the first question for us? Get a bit more signing
So what do you actually do with your job then?
What
is your actual role?
Lots. I do lots. Yeah, so it's
quite varied.
It seems to change so quickly all the time. And nothing ever seems. I think I said this to Kat, that nothing ever really seems that planned. It just, and a little bit what Mark was saying to your previous guest is that you're taking those opportunities and putting yourself out there, and not that always good things are going to happen, but something's going to happen. And I think if you put a lot of effort into that, generally good things do happen. So, I've been a primary school teacher for the past 12 years, and really until this year, properly, I've been in school in some capacity, either as a full-time teacher, assistant head, English leader, and it's only really this year that I've stepped out of the classroom. So yeah, it's at the moment I'm busy. I create a lot of content to share with teachers, and through obviously Vocabulary Ninja, writing books, I'm learning how to do reels on Instagram at the moment for lots of different things. Mark, it's but thankfully, again, there's lots of people that are always helping me on the way. But it's great. Like you say, busy writing books at the moment. I've got some books being published on Thursday, Arithmetic Ninja.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, I've just finished writing the sequel to Write Like a Ninja as well. So Maths, believe it or not, Maths Like a Ninja is coming out in January. So we're really excited for that.
Maths Like a Ninja. Brilliant.
So yeah, just again, and all these things have just come out of having a go, really, and just sort of being sort of brave enough to put yourself out there. So I'd always definitely recommend that to any teacher. You know, Mark, I'm sure years ago, before you started doing everything that you do now, there'll have been a starting point where you went, I'll have a go at this and see what happens, and stuff comes from it, doesn't it?
No, I completely agree. People say to me, how can I do what you do, Mark? And I'm like, well, I didn't sit down and plan to be where I am. It is about taking those opportunities. I just wanted to help people share, and not only share the good stuff happening in my school, in my classroom and what have you, but share some of the things that weren't working quite so well as well, but in a way to try and help people out. And it just, as you know, it leads from one opportunity to another. From attending a teach meet led to hosting and running my own teach meets, which led to then me being asked to speak. They all lead from one thing to the other, and like you shared, they're not all going to be good, but they predominantly are. And it's you learn more when you step outside your comfort zone, and clearly that's working quite well for you, Andrew. Are we going to be? We've got some more teach like a ninja, eat like a ninja. What sort of
spell like a ninja on the way. Maths like a ninja, spell like a ninja are going to be happening. Yeah. But, a little bit like what you said. I think back over the years, and I forget some of the crazy things that myself and colleagues have done. Likewise, we held or started a teach meet, which COVID sort of stopped, called Total Teaching in Hartlepool, and that was going really quickly over 3 years. And I think back to it, I was messaging Gaz Needle just while I was waiting in the room, because he'd commented and mentioned about Lead, Learn, Lancs, and that was one of the first events that I went to and met a few people that I'd never met before. These events. But there was something that you said there, but I was just quickly refreshing what the questions were from previously, and I'd obviously looked at the title of the magazine, and that reflect element it made me think. One of the first little blog articles that I wrote that got me going with vocabulary was I predominantly mentioned about that reflective process within teaching. To be honest, I used to hate having to write reflect. When you first start teaching, it was a chore. But when I look, the first thing that really stoked something happening was me having a really bad year teaching in year 5, real tough year, and sitting down at the end of it and going, what went wrong, and how we're going to do something about it next year. And that's where it's, even being on this call now, if I was to say what is that one moment, it's probably that of just being able to sit there and think, what are we going to do different next year? And it worked. Not all of it, but a lot of it worked. And it wasn't just me, it was a team of other teachers and teaching assistants and parents getting on board with things that made a difference to the outcomes for that next sort of cohort of children. So that reflection aspect is really, really important. Couldn't be underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you said that Vocabulary Ninja kind of grew from that initial thing of noticing that one of the things in common that your pupils within that particular year have been struggling with was vocabulary, and then it was kind of honing in on why that was and what you could do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it absolutely wasn't. I always say this when I talk, it wasn't just vocabulary. That was one little thing that I picked up on. And
you picked up, yeah.
There was a lot of little things that I've refined over the years. That I think even more so, it was about consistency in my approach from teaching and the routines that we embedded within the classroom. And vocabulary was just one of them, alongside reading and writing, which were the main focuses in terms of literacy. So, I'd always sort of talk about those consistencies to teachers and say they're the things that make real differences to pupils. If the more consistent you can be with your teaching style, the types of lessons that you deliver, your approaches, and so on, so we're going to have that biggest impact for people. Or I've found where you'll have that real significant impact for pupils.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had fun interviewing you for R.I.S.E magazine, but can you tell us a bit about your interview and kind of why you did it and what the experience was like for you.
Yeah, well, firstly, I was asked, which was nice. It's always nice to be asked, isn't it?
It's nice.
But yeah, it was really straightforward. I know, if you know, in terms of if any, you know, from listening to your previous guests, you know, I'd echo those sentiments, that it was a really straightforward process, and it's always lovely to sort of meet and speak to new people who know what they're doing technologically, which are not always the greatest at. But yeah, it's always great to just, and especially nowadays when, you know, you think about those previous 3 years with COVID and everything, those opportunities to sort of, I suppose COVID's allowed these sort of things to happen, hasn't it? With, you know, StreamYard and everything else. But it was lovely to be asked. And it was nice to have that sort of platform to share my ideas about teaching in general, because I think it's, you know, it's really important that people, you know, hear different, you know, people's experiences. But yeah, it was great. Kat was fab. Made it really easy for me to just come on and talk endlessly.
Oh, well, you made it easy because you had a lot to say, so it was fine. It makes my job easier.
But yeah, it was great, and you know, and thanks for having me on. It's always nice to be able to come back in again.
Thank you.
I think, Mark, I've seen you around a lot, but I don't think we've ever really spoken in any sort of. I think I've probably messaged you a few times on Twitter for certain things.
Yeah, way back when you were starting, and it's interesting you mentioned Lead, Learn, Lancs, because I spoke at that. I don't know if you keep. I think it was the first one that was organised. I was one of the keynotes there, so it's going back quite a long time now. I'm trying to think, 5 years or more. So.
There was a guy, I forget his name. It definitely wasn't you. But it was, it might have been you, because it was about tech. But he had like an old school game joystick, and that was like
me.
Oh, was it you?
Well, Daley Thompson's Decathlon, yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, that was. I remember that, Viv. I remember that.
Oh, there you go.
Does he look that different now that you couldn't remember it was him?
Yeah, and I think there was like a
more grey hair.
Quiz. There was like a bit of a music quiz or something like that, and people quite enjoyed it. It was good, yeah. I liked it.
Good stuff. Brilliant. Look, we've got other people ready to come on. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and share with us, and of course joining Kat for the recording and for writing for R.I.S.E Mag. If people wanted to learn more about you, Andrew, obviously your Vocabulary Ninja Twitter handle is there. I'm guessing it's a similar sort of affair on your Facebook page, your Instagram, with your reels. Don't get me started. Website address, you know, books. How do we get in touch and find out about all those sort of things if we wanted to learn more?
Yeah, easiest thing is just the website, www.vocabularyninja.co.uk. But yeah, there's always lots going on, and if I always say to people ever just want to get in touch and chat and talk, message me on Twitter, drop me an email. It's always good to sort of expand your horizons, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Yeah, I completely agree as well.
Thank you, Andrew.
Great stuff. Thanks, Andrew.
No problem. Thanks.
Fantastic. I should have changed my background for that one. I should have had like Bruce Lee doing some practices or something going on. You know, I'm slacking a bit here, Kat. It's not.
I'm more upset about the cufflinks still, to be honest. Like, you know, that's more of a rookie error.
Costume change. No.
Yeah.
Our next
are you
guest,
going to introduce our next guest, Mark?
Our next guest on the deep dive into the 5th edition of R.I.S.E magazine is Sarah Tilley. Welcome to the show, Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hey. Nice to talk to you in person.
It's so strange, isn't it? I've just find that Twitter environment amazing. You make all these connections, and then you don't even really know what people look like, or you don't know what they sound like.
It's interesting hearing the voices for sure.
It's so nice to see you all. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Oh, you're welcome. How are you?
Yeah, good. Exhausted, busy, like everybody else.
Yeah.
There's so many bugs in school at the moment. All the
that
kids
time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, being sick and snotting everywhere. And
very glamorous time of year.
The maths, just keeps me going in school. So so I'm fine with you. Yeah, good.
Great stuff, Sarah. And we mentioned you before a little bit. I don't know if you actually caught up all of on what Harry was sharing before, but we got a glimpse of some of the things you do, because she mentioned she works with you and in a variety of ways and things. But for our audience who might have missed it, could you share a bit about, not in a Cilla Black style, but you know, what's your name, where'd you come? Could you share about who you are, what it is you do, the role you have, maybe a little bit as well about why you're so passionate about maths, because you are very passionate about maths.
I'm just wondering whether the Cilla Black reference is because I've got red hair.
It's very nice red hair, though.
It is.
Well, don't even get me started on
It's
hair.
very long. I love it.
Right, so I'm a primary maths consultant. I've been in education over 20 years. I don't bother saying the number of years now. I just say over 20 because it makes me feel a bit better. And yeah, I basically do maths all day, every day. And it's an absolute privilege and an honour. And I didn't actually start as a maths specialist. I got an English degree, a BA in English and drama. And it wasn't until I started teaching children that I thought, I can do this better. You know, I can make this more interesting. I can make this more, I can help children learn better. I just felt that I knew a lot about literacy and English. I was an English lead and things like that. But the maths bit, I was like, hang on. And, you know, I think sadly maths sometimes with some groups of children or even parents, you know, negative attitudes towards maths, think they can't do it. And my background in primary school receiving maths was I literally went to a box, picked a card up, sat down at my table, worked through the card, turned it over to check there wasn't anything on the other side, and then put it back and got the next one in sequence. This isn't even taught. I don't think I was even taught in primary school, for example. I'm not talking about primary. So I came into education with my literacy passion, and it didn't take long. And I still love books and I still love reading, etc., etc. But yeah, I fell in love with maths when I decided I needed to be better at teaching it, and just explored it. And I think I got really interested in sort of gender differences and attitudes, and that sort of drove me through the academic side of it. And then it was actually, what about the classroom? You know, what can I do better? And I was an advanced skills teacher, so I went for maths as my specialism and became a maths leader. And then before I knew it, there was a job in the local authority. You know, sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time. A job came up, and I worked for Enfield Local Authority, where I live now, or where I'm based, I'd say, for 10 years. And that job, I just absolutely loved it, because you had the privilege of seeing maths, not just in your own environment and your other teachers. So I did a lot of that, but going out and getting out there, just wonderful. And I do very similar work now. So I've got my own business. I moved on from that after 10 years and just thought I needed to teach children a little bit more. I loved the job in the council, but I just needed to teach a bit more. So I teach I teach over 100 children a week. It's just amazing. And I do loads of team teaching and coaching in schools. And then I do, you know, sort of strategic development of mathematics with maths leaders, action planning and all that. I deliver a lot of training to primary teachers on maths, and I do that in Enfield and Brent and Barnet. But I've written an after school program, and that's how Harry and I worked more together. So I've known her for a very long time. We were both at maths leaders together, and then I was training her, and we've known each other a long time. But yeah, teaching children and having a group of teachers doing that. And then my latest sort of thing that I'm really passionate about is helping parents support their child at home.
Yeah,
that's my big thing now. So that's like a project I've been working on for the last year. And that's why Kat is so patient. Because I kept saying, I'm awfully sorry, but would I be able to do the next R.I.S.E edition? Not because I didn't value the work, but I've been stuck into quite a few projects. But yeah, basically maths all day, every day, trying to get everybody to love it. A child said to me a couple of weeks ago, Mrs. Tilley, why are you so happy all the time because of maths?
I
was like, no. In my head I was like, no. Yes, definitely. Definitely. And they're like, yeah, I thought so.
Brilliant.
Maybe that's articles. Maybe that thing about parents would be a future article for the magazine. But that's really interesting. You talk about your English background, because I've read all the articles for the upcoming R.I.S.E magazine, and not to pick out, you know, my favourite, but yours is one of my favourites. And the reason why I love it so much is maths is so inaccessible for some learners. And what I loved about your article is there are so many brilliant takeaways about how you can use books in lots of different ways, and not just saying that you can use books, but a bit like Oliver's article, where it's not just saying, you know, think of small things, it's the practical takeaways. And there are so many brilliant practical takeaways. You're clearly a practitioner who really knows their craft. They do it in the classroom every day with the children and can really get the best out of them. So maybe you could write another article for us about how you do that with parents as well. That'd be another really useful thing to do as well, Sarah. But Really
I agree.
enjoyed your article. It was just,
I
know it's going to be so useful. Sorry, Kat.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think the concept of taking a book and being able to teach multiple different math skills and lessons and things is such a win for teachers, because, you know, we've always got books in the classroom. So being able to have that one resource that can just spark so much imagination and discussion and stuff. And I love the way that you put the different categories as well. So, you know, if you knew, right, we're working on retrieval, this is the kind of book that I need, or, you know, I want to deepen their understanding in this or get them problem solving, I want this kind of book. And the way that you put in some example books as well, I think that made it really accessible for teachers to read it and go away and, you know, get themselves a book and get started.
Thank you. I mean, I could have easily just done a whole article with just lists of books.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Starting point with the top 100, you know. But I think, there are great websites like Math Through Story who you can go on to and just see a whole variety of books out there that are available. So, I just thought, really, I think choosing the right book is more difficult than you might imagine. Just because I've done it a lot of times, I've realised that I get very taken by a bit of humour. So if I pick up a book and I'm laughing, I'm like, I'm going to use it. Or if I see amazing illustrations, I'm drawn to them. And I've done that, and I've got it a little bit wrong sometimes because of that. And so what I've kind of learned over time is that actually, as a teacher, what I need to think about is, what do I want it for, and what do the children need? And that just, you know, helps me think about the different stages, like you say, about retrieval, or if you're pre-teaching a maths idea, rather than getting too distracted by how wonderful the story might be, really focusing in on the maths and what the children. And there are some absolutely superb books out there. People write them specifically for this purpose now. And, you know, and that's what I'm going to do one day. But, you know, that whole, I'm writing for a purpose. I know, I've got to. I can't preach about it all these years and then not do it. Yeah. So, so hopefully the article will enable people to realise, okay, or to consider, I should say, books for purpose. And you do that in literacy automatically. Whereas sometimes in maths, it might just be, oh, this is a nice idea, I might just use it, which is great too. You know, it's not that there's one right answer, but if you want to take it a little bit further, the opportunities are massive, and the engagement of the children is wonderful, and everyone, it's just a nice thing, isn't it? So you might be a big fan of Math Through Story if you haven't picked that up.
No, I can understand why.
Fabulous.
Rachel,
so what do you think? Obviously, we know what you think about R.I.S.E magazine now. So would you like to? So it was obviously a great experience, as it was for me, because they're inviting everybody in on it. It's absolutely fabulous. But what do you personally think about R.I.S.E magazine then? For anybody else out there who really would love to write for it, what would you think? What would you say to them?
Well, do it, and don't be nervous about it, because Kat, I'm sure you've heard this lots of times before, but you are so incredibly supportive.
Thank you.
And you know,
it's like the blushing part of the show.
But just think, what would you like to write about? What gets you going is a great starting point, I think, because you can get very restrained when you're article writing sometimes and limited. And I think that, for me, that was a great starting point. You know, what would you like to share with people? The patience as well. You know, me saying, I want to, Kat, I'm working on a huge project. Can you help me? Can you give me patience? And she did all that. So I think the actual journey of doing it is, if you don't try, you don't know, do you? You know, and it's not something to be scared of. And, you know, the experience that you have in doing this comes through because you get your crib sheets and you get your tech advice, and all of that step-by-stepness is really helpful, and it enables you. And you can just get going. And so I would 100% recommend anybody who is thinking about it to do it. And as for the magazine itself, I can remember when I first started teaching, and I can't remember the name of the magazine, but there was a magazine that everybody used to get every week. I used to get it, month, and I used to get it delivered. And it was a massive stack of things, you know, in my bedroom, and a big stash of them. And I think that it's the variety that is the most useful thing maybe for people who read it. Because that's what I used to get before. It's that whole idea about, actually, I'm going to turn the page and I'm going to find something new out. And I'm a specialist, and I'm in primary education. So in primary education, you're either a specialist or you're a generalist. And both of those is difficult. So I'm maths all day, every day. I don't know enough about Makaton. So do you know? So I can turn the page and I can read about it. I don't know. I love Harry's articles on chess, obviously, but all the maths and the problem solving that comes through. But if you're also a generalist, it's hard to be a primary school teacher because you can't know everything about everything. And also, it's a full-on day, and CPD is useful, but badly timed sometimes. At the end of the day, that's a hard time to sit and think deeply about something. So I think, the collection of different ideas and the way that you can, just learn something new or confirm something or think differently about something. And just the whole wonderful idea of all these people just getting together and saying, here's what I like. What do you think? Have a read, have a go. So, I think, yeah, that's what I love about it.
Yeah, thank you.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, really, Sarah, for me, because doing a sort of outward, as Andrew was saying before, doing that reflective thing. One of the things that I like most about the R.I.S.E magazine is it's a bit like a good teach meet, in that not every presentation is going to be for you. But if you don't like that presentation, give it 5 minutes. Turn the page, and there'll be something else there that'll be really, really useful for you. And I think that you've hit the nail on the head with that whole variety thing, because we've all got an interest in learning these things. Teachers are in their very nature learners themselves. You have to be as part of the job, don't you? And so, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. And it's just so lovely to have that variety. And I'm a huge fan of what you've shared in your article as well. So thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. And thank you for coming on.
Lovely to meet you, Sarah.
Yeah,
lovely to meet you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'll see you soon, hopefully.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, we're cracking through them this evening. If you want to get yourself a copy of R.I.S.E magazine, don't forget you can subscribe for free at netsupportsoftware.com/rise-magazine. And next on the show, we have Kat.
We've got our very own Maggie Layfield coming on the show. So I'm really excited. Yay!
Hi guys.
Net supporter.
Hi, Maggie.
How's things over the pond?
As I said, I think I'm the only American one thus far. So over here it's cold, but it's not too shabby.
It's cold,
so I can't complain.
Oh no, brilliant. So we're talking today and it's not about baking.
I know. Kat and I are baking buddies. So she likes to put her beautiful pictures of her cakes up, and I feel driven to be like, oh, I made this. Look at this, Kat. I did this over here. So.
Little chats about it. But yeah, how are you anyway? How's your week been?
It has been very busy for being, we're leading up to Thanksgiving in the U.S. So over here, Big Turkey Day, although we are not huge turkey fans. So I'm prepping to make my very first rib roast for Thanksgiving, a bit out there. So wish me well. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, good luck with that.
We'll see how that goes.
More importantly, though,
don't forget to rest.
What are you making for pudding?
Oh, yes. No. Well, I'm not a huge pumpkin fan, like pumpkin pie and things. And we just made an apple crumble the other day, and my kids helped make it. But then they tried it, and they're like, "Mommy, there's too much cinnamon in this." I was like, "All right, way to be judgmental." So haven't quite decided. We might just kick off the Christmas cookies. Or the Christmas biscuits, as y'all would call them, I think, a little early, and get some iced biscuits going for fun, because then they can chaos abound on the table. And then I can clean it up when they go to bed.
Right.
That's how it works, Mum.
Well, thank you for joining us on this busy week then, because obviously, Thanksgiving on Thursday, so very soon approaching.
Yeah.
So obviously me and Mark know you because we work with you, but for anyone that doesn't know you, could you do just a little intro of you and what you do?
Sure. I'm Maggie Layfield. I'm the head of sales for the U.S. Side of things for Net Support, so all things Net Support products and things we do over here, and generally a mix of a mentor, coach, co-marketer, sales writer. I do a lot of things. I don't know. So I wear a lot of hats.
Brilliant.
So your article, I say we're friends on a completely different level. I won't spend too long any time going into that. I flashed up something, a little visual reference a second ago, but I'll leave that. I did a little shout out for us going best buddies yesterday. Happy days. But Your article is really interesting. Could you share a little bit about your article and why you chose to write about it, please, Maggie?
Sure. So I wrote about flex learning spaces, and actually it was kind of a flashback to my first year of teaching. I was an educator in a past life, many years ago, or past a decade now. But I've had many hats ever since then. But I can remember starting off first year in the classroom, and it was a brand new school, and so we were promised all these flashy, great new technology, new classroom. And I walked into mine, and I was missing desks, no projector, no smartboard, because they'd blown past the budget. And so being the new teacher, I got shafted and I got nothing. But I had 32 kids in one of my classes and only 26 or 27 desks, which doesn't really work well for not having enough children. So we had to get creative with how we sat students and did things, and what we did in the classroom. And since they'd blown the budget, I was a poor broke teacher having to kind of make my own classroom work for me with the random supplies and things I could find. And that was my first foray into really kind of like flex learning spaces without realizing I was creating one, and understanding that the classroom has to match the needs of your students, not and the intentionality and the outcome of what you want to see as a teacher. So I grew up in classrooms where it was straight desks, rows, you stared at the front, that was it. You weren't a participant, you were sitting back passive, absorbing the knowledge. It didn't feel like you were very involved. And I'm very passionate about engagement of students. And I think if the classroom models a more engaging look and feel, you're going to get much more out of the students. You're going to make them feel welcome. They're going to feel like they're in a place where it's safe to talk about things, where they're welcome to ask questions and learn. So I really want teachers to kind of rethink what they could be doing in their own classrooms. Maybe they don't have the budget, but they have physical things already that they could just tweak things and make some changes to be able to create better learning environments for our students and ultimately have a better positive learning outcome for everybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. I think it was really useful. And I think, a lot of teachers would appreciate kind of ways to help them think about how to make that space more flexible. And I guess, like you say, if you're kind of thrown into it like you were and you have to make it flexible, you do some of these things without even realizing.
You get very crafty very fast. I think I mentioned the article, but one of my first units we did was towards October, which, Halloween and everything and stuff. So we did like a Gothic literature unit because it was an English teacher. And so I turned my classroom into basically a dungeon by doing like black contact paper on the wall or the bulletin board paper and getting cheap decorations from the dollar store to hang up all over the classroom. And they loved it. And it's something it's different, but it's making the environment mimic what you want them to get out of it. And you definitely see them getting excited about learning when it's not just the same old boring classroom.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Fabulous.
So what has your experience of writing for R.I.S.E been like? Because obviously, you've been reading it for some time. But what was it like actually writing for it?
So I think it's fantastic for me because I love writing. That was my passion. I went to school for English literature, and I don't get to do as much of it. I'm trying to get more back into kind of writing, getting ideas out there, because I think knowledge sharing is so important. And I think a lot of times we suffer the imposter syndrome of, oh, no one's going to want to hear what I have to say. I'm not an expert on something. I don't know enough about it. But come to find with something like R.I.S E, especially, that you don't have to be an expert on something. You just have to have ideas or suggestions to throw out there. And writing for R.I.S E has been brilliant because, of course, I think everyone so far has said Kat is wonderful to work with, and she is. She's the best. But for me, I have so many ideas brewing around in my head that sometimes I can be like, oh, what about this? I could send Kat 10 different article ideas. She'd be like, slow down, tiger. So she's really good about kind of helping me to kind of figure out what we need to focus on, what to do, giving some direction when needed, but also giving me the freedom to voice my own ideas and opinions and get them out there.
Velociraptors in the next one.
Yes. The preview of coming attractions. We're talking about Velociraptors. I love this so much. So yes, if you love
I'm kind of sad it's not in this one because it means we have to wait till March for that one.
I promise it's well worth the read. This has been an ongoing theory of mine for years about teaching. So, spoilers.
So, just the fact it mentions Velociraptors, and I'm determined that we're going to get a blue Velociraptor graphic drawn in there to go with it.
I'm so excited now. I cannot wait to read this.
I know that one's not to watch though, but the Flex Learning Spaces that's coming out in this one is brilliant. Though.
Cannot
It's
wait.
just we're just being dinosaur geeks. So
I feel like we've just hyped up something. I hope we haven't
I know,
left the
it's ages
expectations
away.
to the next level, but you know.
So what do you think of the magazine as a whole?
I love it. And I think it was Sarah who just mentioned, like, you know, back in the day getting the physical magazines. And I think sometimes we default to the internet of like, oh, I can go on Pinterest, or I can go on XYZ website and I can find the information, I can find ideas. And you can. Pardon me. My children infected me with diseases, of course, the week of Thanksgiving.
No.
But, you know, the internet is great when you know what you're looking for. Like in general, like, you're like, oh, ideas for an English classroom. Oh, you know, ideas for whatever. But when you don't know what you don't know, it's nice to have kind of a centralized repository, which R.I.S.E really is, of ideas from all around, not just your circle or your bubble, but everywhere. And I could be flipping through and reading through something and go, oh, I never thought of that before. Like, this is a teacher who does something completely different than what I did, but I could make that work for my classroom. Or, oh my goodness, I'd never heard of this over here, and I would have never stumbled across this app or this tool if not for R.I.S E. And I think we don't have enough of that kind of collaboration, and we really need more of it, especially on like a global level. And R.I.S E is really one of the only resources that I know of that is trying to get that global perspective. It's not just US, it's not just UK. You've got people from all over pitching forward their ideas, which I just think is brilliant. And I love the collaboration. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, no, me too. The collaboration makes me very happy. It's just everyone's welcome for sure.
No, I completely agree. I really enjoyed your article as well. I've noticed actually this week, and you probably noticed this with my US sort of spectacles on, about ISTE and ASCD merging. The merger is going to happen in January. And one of the things that they've talked about with that merger, say if you're UK or sort of European based, you might not know, ISTE is a huge kind of bet-like but teacher-driven sort of technology organisation thing, and ASCD is one of the biggest sort of teacher CPD kind of organisations, and they're going to sort of merge together. But what they were saying, I think it was the CEO of ISTE was saying, it's about how technology in the classroom isn't really the question anymore. So it was really interesting when you started sharing a minute ago, Maggie, about how you didn't get a whiteboard, didn't have enough chairs, so forth and so on. We're seeing far much more use of technology in the classroom, but again, not enough for one-to-one in many schools. So the reason why I found your article particularly useful is it's not enough. You need those flexible learning spaces. You need to be able to flex with different things. So you might have some children doing some green screening, some children doing some audio recording, some children needing to be sat down at a desk, so forth and so on. So I found your article really interesting because there are loads of little strategies, like you said, little takeaways that you can sort of take to think about how you can sort of flex in your own classroom as well. So big thumbs up from me. Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie. Brilliant.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. So, and it's always a joy. To talk to you too. Send me more of your bakes. I look for them on Twitter.
Please send me yours too. Send me Thanksgiving stuff.
I'll try and ship it across. No guarantees it makes it there in one piece.
Oh, I know. We need some sort of teleportation device still.
We were talking about that food teleporter. Like, press the button and there it is. Now Kat has it.
But food.
Next technological advancement. Let's go, guys.
Star Trek for the win.
Exactly.
I'm going to be watching now, Maggie. I'm going to be watching now. I need to know, Marquette. Yeah, I'm going to be looking. I'll follow.
All right, take care, Maggie.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, Maggie.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you so much, Maggie. So who's up next then, Kat? It's our last guest, I believe.
Yes, our last guest. So we have got, last but not least by any means, we've got Halil Tam... hang on, let me start again. Tam Gamish coming onto the show. Welcome, Halil. It's so nice to see you.
Hi, evening.
Hi,
well done,
welcome,
Kat. You
Halil.
did a good job with that.
Thank you. I kind of had a moment where I was like, I've forgotten how to say it. And then I was like, no, I'm going to do it because I even asked you about it.
Halil Tam Gamish, it's hard. That's what they call me, Mr. T. It's fine. I accept it. You know, it's affection.
Hi, Mr. T.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
How are you? Oh, I'm so excited to meet you.
Oh my God, me too. Do you know what? We've got a Makaton club at school, and do you know what? I always think of you. You know what? Seriously. I'll do a little video. And then send it over to you. So
Oh yes, please. Put hashtag motivational Makaton and me, and I will be brilliant if you could do that.
Let's make it happen.
We have to do it.
Great. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. How are you anyway?
Yeah, not bad. I mean, it's evening, isn't it? It's been already a long week, and it's only Tuesday.
Yeah, it feels like it should be at least Thursday, right?
it's been a tough one, but it's cool though. It's fine. School's good. Everyone's happy as they can be. So yeah, we're all good at the minute. So yeah, happy to be here. It's been really good listening. I've been backstage listening to everything that's been almost said tonight, and it's been great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad you've been enjoying it, and thank you for coming on as well. We appreciate it, especially as it is such a busy time. So, yeah,
brilliant stuff. Thank you. So, I'm going to try and avoid now you've called yourself Mr. T phrases like "pity the fool that mess with you."
Right? Yeah, I don't get on my plane. I don't get on my plane either. Yeah, all of that stuff, Mark. Yeah. Oh God.
Don't get me started. I'm going to have to get some milk or something. But anyway, listen, for those who don't follow you on Twitter and get inspired by the things that you share and
laugh at your videos,
can you share a little bit about who you are, what it is you do, please, Leo? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course I can. Yeah. Everyone calls me Mr. T. I'm Halil Tamgamish. I'm a head teacher, proud head teacher of a primary school in Leicester. The school is in one of the, if not the most deprived areas in the whole of Leicester and Leicestershire. 60% pupil premium with 2 form entry, 60% pupil premium, 20% SEND. So yeah, it has its challenges, but it's a beautiful school, beautiful soul, and yeah. Me on Twitter, I think it's a lot of what I do is I try to be as positive as possible about education and share a lot of the stuff that we do and what I do at the school, just to kind of, sometimes I know Twitter can spiral sometimes into the negative realms, and it's just a kind of little bit of what we do, and there is another way, and there are other ways of doing things, and I like to think that we're part of that process of sharing. So yeah, that's me. I'm head teacher, 4 years, first school, first headship. So yeah, doing all right. Took the school from R.I.S.E to good in 7 months. Within the first 7 months of headship, and it's just been a real kind of like privilege to be at the helm, really, of the school now. So yeah, it's all good.
Brilliant.
It's lovely hearing you talk about there being another way. That's that independent thinking sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
there is another way, and you hear it from like lots of Chris Dyson about building a school of love, and I get that vibe from you with the sharing and the way you're talking tonight so passionately about the community you serve, Halil. So yeah, thanks for sharing, and I really got that from your article too. But
yes,
I'll let that question jump on to Kat, if that's all right.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. From your article, obviously, you were talking about how technology can foster a sense of belonging and how that's really worked in your school. Could you tell us a bit more about it and why you decided to write it?
Yeah, it was really interesting actually, because there's a lot of negative talk about tech and how it's isolating and how it stops us from socializing and all of that, right? So actually, ironically, we found the negative. Or the opposite of that, I suppose, not the negative, but the opposite of that viewpoint. And part of our school culture, we've got our vision is really strong in our school, and 4 words, belong, care, persevere, succeed. 4 words, nothing else. And it's really important. The 4 words are really important, and belong is massive, like huge. I talk about psychological safety a lot. I talk about talking about people bringing their whole selves to school, and that's not just staff, that's the kids as well. And yeah, we've used technology to help us do that. And I talk in the article about Lifter. Like, if anybody knows Lifter Ed, Lifter's on a completely different plane, different level, different, it's just sensational. I can't talk about it highly enough. And what it's done for our school and for our children. So belonging, it's helped with that belonging, because I suppose to belong, you've got to feel like you're seen in the curriculum, and also that you can see others in the curriculum. And yeah, Lifter has just, we were very lucky, or I was very lucky, to initially work with Lifter to create Lifter Time. So, and it was just a way of almost having this short, sharp program of study almost, where for 20 minutes each week, our children from year 1 to year 6 watch and are immersed in another world, and they talk. It's just talk. That's all it is. It's not about recording anything. It's not about writing anything. It's not about typing. It's about high quality talk, and it's been literally revolutionary in terms of, like, it's supercharged our belonging to on another level. It's part of our assemblies, our assembly kind of rota. Everybody takes charge of that as well. It's just, I can't explain it, or I can't sell it any more than I am doing. I mean, it's probably one of the best. I haven't got shares in Lifter, by the way. I haven't got shares in Lifter.
You should do.
But if it floats, I don't know. But it's just
sponsored by Lifter.
But they're just, it's just, look, it's really important for me. I'm Turkish Cypriot. It's really important for me, and I come from the estate. I'm an estate boy. So the estate that I'm now head teacher, the school that I'm the head teacher of, where it is, that's my estate. So it's massively important. Belonging. I want my kids to feel like they belong, because if they don't belong, if they don't feel like they belong, they're never going to be their true selves. If they're not their true selves, they're never going to succeed. Like, they're never going to be able to have the investment in their own futures. And Lifter's played a massive part in that. And I can genuinely say that, especially with some of our, and we're not results driven at all. And yeah, Mark, you're right. I haven't met Chris Dyson, but I know our schools are very similar. We're not results driven. However, our results are improving year on year, and I genuinely believe that, especially over the last year and through the lockdowns, Lifter's played a huge role in our successes, and it's just really important for us. And there's no onerous tasks or hard work for the staff. It just does itself. It's just incredible.
It's really interesting you share that, Hilly, and thank you for that story about the boy from the estate, the head teacher of the estate. And that's a really as an educator, that's such an inspiring story to hear from you. So thank you for sharing that. We as Twitter goers, we see an awful lot about research ed, and whether it's retrieval or direct instruction or metacognition or whatever. And that's not to say that they're not important things, but something that isn't perhaps talked about often enough is relationships, and belonging is such an absolutely key part of that. And if you're going to quote Hattie, strong relationships between home, school, and child are big interventions, and that's clearly what you're getting, and it shines through. I've spoken, I've done other shows over the years, Halil, and I spoke with a head teacher of another school that uses Lifter, and they were saying the exact same thing about that not just their school community, but their wider community as well in where the school sits. I know the founder of Lifter as well, and so I mean, if they're watching, I'm sure that he'll be buzzing about the conversation we're having. But it is one of those tools, isn't it? Technology can do lots of amazing things, but when it can actually help improve those sort of things, it's massive, isn't it? It's lovely to see that, and it shines through in your article as well. What do you think? It's sort of the cornerstone of that for you, Halil?
The actual program of Lifter itself.
Yeah. Well, what do you think makes it so good at doing it? Because it's not easy to getting teachers to engage with technology is hard enough as it is, right? And getting consistent. But whenever I speak to anybody who's in a school who's got Lifter, they seem to be having great successes with it. So, what do you think that is that makes it? What's the cornerstone of Lifter that makes it so impactful?
100%. I think it's got the attention for detail in it is incredible, and I know that the team have worked really, really hard to make sure that it's mapped out for the curriculum, because that's one of the things that we all worry about. We worry about what's going to be pushed out to be able to make this happen, or how much hard work am I going to have to put into this to make it fit the curriculum. I know that they've worked hard to map things out. And second to that, the quality of the videos and the story worlds are the children know them by name, Mark. The children know the characters by name. They're like our friends. They're part of our family now, you know. And I just feel that there's such a it's so rich in terms of it's the way the videos are directed, the sensitivity around some of the subjects are, you know, some of the subjects are really hard hitting, but there's no onerous kind of like workload for staff to make this work, and it's really complex but simply delivered. I don't know how else to put it. You look at it and you can see the work that's gone into it. It's amazing, but it's so easy to navigate, so easy to use, and the richness you get from it is second to none. You can get all the books you like, you know, the hours that you can waste searching things on Google or any other search engine. It saves time. You're never going to find the same quality anywhere, and it's well worth it completely. So I'm really pleased that we're part of that, and we've had something to do with its development, really. So yeah.
That's brilliant.
Good.
Thanks, Halil.
Yeah, it does sound really good.
So how did you feel about writing for R.I.S.E magazine then?
Do you know what, right? I've written for people before, but I've never been hounded as much as I have been by Kat to make sure that I finish it. Have you done it yet? Have you started? Tell me you've started. But it's been, you know what? It's been great to share the experience that we've got. And I know of R.I.S.E magazine, and I didn't really know it. Like until we met at the Bet show, Kat, really. So we met there, and I was with my my computing lead at the time. We were walking around, and he hated it because I was like taking photos and videos. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, you know what? I read that. I've taken things from that." I'm like, "What? Taking things?" He goes, from that magazine." So when we were talking to you. He was like really excited. He was like, I'm like, oh, okay. And so when I looked into it a little bit more, wow, the magazine itself, like the actual kind of the information and the articles that are in there are so varied. Like you can easily dip into it and find something that you can take and use. And I just think it's just been nice to be able to participate in that, you know, and nice to be asked as well, to be honest with you. So quite humbling. So thank you for asking.
Thank you.
But it's also nice to be part of such a great group of people who have also contributed to such a great resource, really.
No, thank you. Appreciate that. And yeah, sorry for the hounding.
Tell her how it is, Halil. Yeah, just pity the fool that messes with Halil. I jest, of course. No, thank you for sharing. It's been lovely having you on, Halil. Thank you very much. And if you want to follow, if you do want to sort of learn more about you and follow you on Twitter, if I can find the actual banner, I'll bring your Twitter handle back up as well. Here we go. So yeah, please do follow Halil, Mr. T for Real, on Twitter.
Yeah, not the other one.
Not the other one. Oh, can we not talk about that? I'm still heartbroken. Okay.
Oh, sorry. You've done well at building back up again. You have.
It's happened to other people as well.
Yeah,
Jeff and Margaret. Really?
I know.
But yeah, it's cool. It's just social media, isn't it? It's it's not real life, is it? It's not real life.
No. You're doing well. You're finding people well again.
Yeah.
If it ever happens to me, I'll be devastated, but you'll have to help me.
We're always there for each other. Don't worry. We'll see.
Exactly. We'll work it out.
Brilliant stuff, Halil. Thank you. And speaking of catchy Twitter handles, Rachel H82471802 can be
yeah, all the numbers.
I changed that years ago. Now everybody knows that's me, so why bother?
I pretty much always tag you in pictures, Rachel, because your Twitter handle is so long and it takes up so many characters.
Yeah, it goes over the characters, doesn't it? You're like, oh, I'm not going to put her in. I can't bother putting her in. Well, you have to completely change your tweet just to include her, because otherwise you haven't got the number of characters you need. Oh, I'm joking, Rachel. I'm joking.
It's not that bad.
It's so funny. I wish I'd done this years ago.
Oh, great stuff. Well,
yeah.
Thanks so much for taking the time to join us this evening, Halil. And I say, I'm sure all of us want to wrap it up now. So thanks for coming and sharing. Looking forward to getting your article out there into the big wide world as well. Thanks for taking the time to join us this evening, and hope we cross paths at Bet, if not sooner, Halil.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. We should do. We should meet up soon. Take care. Thank you very much, everybody.
Cheers, Halil. Thank you. Well, there we go. Kat, I'll hand over to you to wrap things up.
Yeah, so brilliant show. Thanks again to all of our guests. Thank you, Rachel, for coming on and joining us as well. It's been lovely having you, as always. And so keep an eye out for the magazine drop next week. If you want to get it as soon as it is published, you can go and subscribe, and that means you'll get access to all the older versions as well. Here's our front cover again. So just giving you a little bit of a glimpse at what the next issue will be like. So yeah, don't miss out. It's free, and as everyone has said, varied and full of lots of really great content. So don't miss it. And thank you for watching the show.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.